it strong.
Alrighty, everyone, what's going on? A very, very, very happy Thursday, and welcome to the Throw-In with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Good afternoon, everyone. What's going on? I got a 2-hour program for you guys coming up here. No, the 1 to 3 time slot is kind of out of range. Let me explain. I was scheduled from a 10 to noon. Started getting stuff worked up. Then I changed myself into a noon to 2 schedule, and then we had to push back an hour. Now I woke up this morning, took my daughters to school, and it was pitcher day. You know, we thought it was very important. Well, the youngest hasn't been feeling well. She wasn't at school yesterday, and we told her that we wanted her to try, especially since today was pitcher day. So she went in, she took her pitchers. She still wasn't feeling well, had to pick her up pretty early, so that's why we did not that's why things got pushed back. I had her for a little bit, and you know, just had to take care of some things. So that transitioned into a couple hours. Got my notes ready. Definitely wanted to dive on into a lot of the sports conversations. Like I said, I was off yesterday. I didn't have a time slot that was great for me to go on and put on a program. So hopefully that changes here. Come back. I'll do a show tomorrow, wrap up the week, and pretty excited about what's going on here around town. All right. You know, I want to go ahead and give, first of all, yesterday, a big shout out to the great Muta, who was announced yesterday on the bump by Ric Flair that he was going to be inducted into the class of 2023 in the WWE's Hall of Fame. Expect a little. We'll talk about the great Muta a little bit more in depth coming up here later on in our program, but paying the respects out of great Muta as the WWE is finally coming together with some sort of, hey, we're going to give ourselves a Hall of Fame. Started off with Rey Mysterio last week, and now we're moving to Great Muta. And I don't know how often if they're going to promote this. I don't know how many people are going to be a part of this class. So hopefully, maybe tomorrow night, we'll see on SmackDown, we'll see someone else get inducted into the Hall of Fame. But who knows? We'll see. It all comes down to the endings here. All right. The World's Baseball Classic, all right, is the regular games are over with, right? And we're moving on. So I kind of want to just take the moment and break this down for you, and kind of, if you missed anything, and I think, you know, the World's Baseball Classic is I thought it was very intriguing. And you know, one thing that I've had growing up was the habit. It was a bad habit, but the habit of kind of getting ready for the World Baseball Classic, and then it comes and goes so quickly that we miss all of it, you know. But I got a chance to actually watch a little bit this year, and now we're down and ready. The little round robin series is done with, and now we're heading down into the you know, this qualifying championship tournament, you know, 1-game elimination. So I kind of want to just go ahead and break down to you guys real quick about the World's Baseball Classic and what we're intended to look at. Because so in Pool A, we have in the final standings of the round robin tournament that happened over this past week. Pool A had Cuba, well, the entire Pool A between Cuba, Italy, Netherlands, Panama, Chinese Taipei, all finished off 2-2 as their final record. Cuba and Italy are the two teams in that matter that went on to the quarterfinals, which a game took place yesterday. We'll talk about that here in a moment. And then another game took place today, and I want to see if later on in the program I could come up with the final score. In Pool B, we saw Japan go 4-0, while Australia went 3-1, Korea went 2-2, Czech Republic went 1-3, and China couldn't win a game. They went 0-4. So Japan and Australia advanced to the quarterfinals. Down in Pool C, Mexico and United States went 3-1. Canada went 2-2. Colombia and Great Britain both went 1-3. And finally, last but not least, Pool D, Venezuela went 4-0. Puerto Rico went 3-1. Dominican Republic went 2-2. Israel went 1-3, and Nicaragua went 0-4. So all of this you can find by the great source of CBS Sports. And so we had a game yesterday between Cuba and Australia. So apparently Team A, Pool A, and Pool B will be facing each other yesterday and today. They'll go on in the semifinals on Sunday and face each other, while Pool C and D will face each other tomorrow and Saturday. So let me find this out and pull it up here. Maybe they have an update, and I'm just going to have to check. But so Cuba beat Australia 4-3. So they're going to be playing Sunday in the semifinals, while Japan and Italy was playing, I believe, this morning. So let me just pull that up. And I want to share with everyone what there's a final score yet, because when I got this ready this morning, there wasn't a full final score. Looks like Japan won. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. All right. So Japan today beat Italy 9-3. I want to write that down. Okay. So that means Puerto Rico. That means tomorrow we're left with Puerto Rico and Mexico. And then on Saturday, we're left with, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. Okay, so Puerto Rico and Mexico will be playing tomorrow at 7 p.m. on FS1. United States and Venezuela will play at 7 p.m. on Fox on Saturday. And then the winner, and I'm just looking at the bracket here, the winner of Puerto Rico and Mexico will go on and face Japan. And then the winner of USA versus Venezuela will go on and face Cuba in the semifinals. So I'm just kind of jotting this stuff down just so that I keep up to date. I'm not really worried about who's home and who's away. So, and then the championship game is expected to get underway on Tuesday. Now, USA made it in after winning yesterday. They I just had all my notes here. Apologize. They won. They beat Colombia yesterday to enter themselves in. They'll be facing Venezuela. So if you guys are watching World Baseball Classic, if that means anything to you guys, I know it's coming down to last final games, one game away. I understand maybe people who tune into FS1, like tomorrow, it's going to be on FS1. Saturday will be on Fox, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer. Everything's also streamed on Fubo TV. And then you could also stream it on FS2. And then the championship game on Tuesday will be streamed on FS1, as well as both of the semifinal games on Saturday and Monday. So check into that as well. But You know, so we're talking about some sports. What are we going to talk about today? I want to really get into this first hour number one. Talk about the NCAA tournament. March Madness is officially underway. All your brackets booked into set. No more. But what I've been doing on this program is, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not really one to really, break on who's going to win in NCAA. I haven't really paid much attention to that over the past few years. So earlier this week, I kind of started not predicting, but giving you my thoughts of who was going to win in NIT. I came across after all the NIT first round's results, I finished off 8-8, which wasn't too what wasn't too exciting. So I want to revisit NIT, and then we'll talk about the NCAA tournament. I'll give you my predictions of who's going to win. I know there are games being played right now. And then we'll get you underway with Cincinnati Reds and local sports. Want to talk about some NFL with you guys as it's a new season, and we'll finish off talking about some AEW. So, kind of want to bring this up and show you guys the bracket here of the NIT. Now I know this isn't complete and set, but all the games have finished. They'll be off to round 2 on Saturday and Sunday. On Tuesday and Wednesday next week is the Elite 8 in the NIT. And then you got the Final 4, followed by the championship, which is supposed to be done on March 30th, which I think kind of co-mingles with opening day baseball. But all right, so what do we know? Because I have the list in front of me, who won and who lost. So I know this is an incomplete bracket as of right now. I'm going to start you off on the left side. And as I go down the list, I'm just going to give you my thoughts of who's going to win of this game. So Youngstown was the one who beat Youngstown fell short, and Oklahoma State advanced. So they're facing Eastern Washington coming up on over the weekend. I'm going to predict that Oklahoma State will pick up that victory. So pardon me as I just go through the list one by one. I know that North Texas won and Sam Houston won. I think I'm liking North Texas out of this upcoming battle, and if that's true, we will see North Texas and Oklahoma State in the Elite 8 for the NIT. I don't want you guys to misunderstand that from the NCAA. Oregon beat UC Irvine, and they're going to go on to face UCF in the second round. And I'm predicting that UCF, I'm going to predict that Oregon is going to pass along in advance to the quarterfinals. Wisconsin beat Bradley. Liberty beat Villanova. And I'm really liking Liberty in this game, but I feel that Wisconsin is better. But I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm saying Liberty is going to be the final team to win on this left side of the screen. So if you guys are listening or watching this program, I'm looking at the bracket, and on the left side of the NIT, these are the games I'm predicting so far. Okay, now here on the right side of the screen, okay, we're going to see Rutgers, who lost to Hofstra, face Cincinnati. And I'm sorry, but I'm facing, with the impressive victory that Cincinnati had last outing, I'm going with Cincinnati. There we go. It'd be nice if I had the right banner put up also. So give me Cincinnati over Hofstra. And I will go over that game here in just a moment. New Mexico walked away losing against Utah Valley, and then Colorado beat Seton Hall over the last 2 days. And I'm favoriting Colorado in the next coming up game here over Utah Valley. Clemson lost to Morehead State, and so Morehead will be facing UAB. And then for me, I like UAB in my favor. So I got UAB coming up on the right side of the game of the matchup 3. Vanderbilt would be taking on Michigan, and I'm gonna go for Vanderbilt again. I just like the way Vanderbilt kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit. Yeah. So, all right. So for the NIT tournament, you guys, the next 4 that I have in prediction of advancing to the NIT Elite 8 is going to be, Oklahoma State, North Texas, Oregon, Liberty, Cincinnati, Colorado, UAB, and Vanderbilt, which means that when we come back on Monday morning, because these games are going to happen on both Saturday and Sunday, we'll have the NIT Elite 8 to talk about and to get underway. And so we'll get you those predictions there and all that fun, good stuff. I'm excited, which is actually predicting on the NIT games. And I know there's not a lot, there's NIT is not really the top dog, obviously nothing compared to what the 64 team battle that's, be taken starting today. But, I'm just, you have Cincinnati in there, and it's basketball. And I guess on the final stretch of college basketball, which is, for the longest time, I've never found amusing up until this point. I'm like, oh, now I understand and see why everyone says that, college basketball is better than the NBA. And it's because for these particular reasons, you got so many games going on in such a small stretch trying to win it all. So we'll come back on Monday and give you guys the top stuff. All right, let's take the first time out of the afternoon. We'll come back and talk about Cincinnati taking on Virginia Tech and what happened last night in their basketball game. I'm going to talk to you guys and break down the NCAA bracket games for round 1 today and tomorrow. We'll show up that bracket and much more still to come. So we're just getting underway. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, I want to thank you guys, welcome you guys in, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Be sure to have those notifications on and don't miss a single episode. If you guys are tuning us in over on Facebook or Twitter, thank you. Welcome. Hit that like button. Share it with your friend. If you guys want to get in part of the conversation, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Leave a comment down below in the comment sections, and we'll be sure to try to get to them the best we can in the program. If you guys are also downloading us and taking us on the road wherever you guys go, we thank you. We welcome you, invite you over to watch us live, and much more. Okay. We want to thank you guys, the fans, you guys, the listeners, for making this possible. And, I enjoy doing this day in and day out. All right. Let's take a time out of the afternoon. Let's come on back and talk more sports. You guys are listening to The Throwing right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All righty, 1:24 here on a Thursday afternoon. And man, it is beautiful outside. I woke up this morning and it was about, I don't know, like 30 degrees, pretty cold. And as you gradually get into the day, it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And like I mentioned, I got, my daughter got her first softball practice this afternoon. And I'm excited. I don't know what it is about softball, baseball that I love. But, went over the weekend, got her some equipment that she needed, felt really good about it. Took them to school this morning. Like I said, my youngest, the reason why we're doing the show at 1 is because my youngest is not feeling so good. So she tried to go to school. Well, I think that was good enough for me. Had to pick her up. But anyways, really beautiful day. And can't wait. Back into the week. Looks pretty amazing. Want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, a proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. StreamYard Studios, where you could create your podcasts, videos, host virtuals, business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out the free version today at StreamYard.com. Alrighty. Yeah, it's going to be nice outside. Going to get done with this show. The update for this show being aired on audio platforms may be a little behind because as soon as I get done with the show, I got to go run to go pick up my oldest. And then maybe I'll have time, maybe not, to come back and get this up to date. So we will see moving forward. So we talked a little bit about the NIT tournament for men's college basketball this morning, earlier back in the first segment. And Cincinnati Bearcats heavily involved yesterday. They took on Virginia Tech. They went on to win the game 81-72. And there's not a lot of notable teams coming out of this NIT tournament that honestly has you captured and favored with. I'm thinking Hofstra that they're going to be facing this weekend. It should be a walk through the park. I don't want to underestimate a team, but when I gave you my, NIT Elite 8 scenario, thinking of Liberty, Oregon, North Texas. I mean, I like North Texas. I like Oklahoma State, which I think if those two guys advance, it's going to be really a good matchup. Colorado is also another team that I'm kind of feared of a little bit, and then Vanderbilt. But otherwise, you could, I know, NIT is a perfect example of what the NCAA tournament is going to be. And it's really anything could happen. It's anyone's ball game at any time. And I just, as I can sit here and predict left and right and who I have. And I would just say that, it's anyone's ball game. That's all I'm going to say. Playing in the NIT, and I'll break down the basketball game here in a moment, but playing in the NIT is not a bad thing. So you don't get into the NCAA basketball March Madness tournament. You get invited to the NIT instead. Because, listen, there's over 120 plus college teams out there for basketball. Not everyone can make it to the NCAA champion, tournament. Now, we're going to go over that list here in a moment. And yes, there's some teams that I kind of scratch my head wondering, how in the world did they even make it to the tournament? But I think that's a question that you can ask yourself until you're blue in the face, but you're never going to even if you give an explanation on why certain teams make it in, I just don't think you'd ever understand it. I thought Cincinnati had a really good season. I thought that Cincinnati deserved and qualified to be in the NCAA tournament. There must have been games where they lost, that put them in the, put them steps back. So, I don't know. Cincinnati, though, they went on to beat Virginia Tech yesterday, 81-72. David DeJulius put up 21 points with 6 rebounds. He led Cincinnati with 14 points and 2 in the second half, outscoring Virginia Tech by 13. Jeremiah Davenport, 4 for 6 on shots, 3 for 5 beyond the arc. Incredible night from them. Landers Nolly put up 15 points, 12 rebounds, 4 for 4 from the free throw, putting up a double-double. Landers Nolly also named 2023's all-district second team. Congratulations to Landers Nolly, finishing off his college career strong. They're going to take on round 2, take on Hofstra in the second round on Sunday. They'll be tipping off at 2 p.m. Let's support the Cincinnati Bearcats and where they're going for moving forward. But we just kind of like I said, kind of preview. Now we get to jump forward and look into talk about upcoming games. I have a handful of games that I am myself looking in for. Obviously there's these locals. Northern, if you guys are in the local Kentucky area, Cincinnati area, you're looking out for Northern Kentucky versus Houston, which plays tonight at 9:20. Tomorrow, there's a couple of big games at 12:40. Kennesaw State takes on Xavier. I don't know when we're going to be doing our show tomorrow. I know I want to do it. I may be doing it by the time they start playing. 7:10 tonight. Providence on tomorrow night. Sorry, Providence will take on Kentucky. So it's just a couple of games in the area to get you guys ready for the weekend. A lot going on tomorrow. An outside game that I'm kind of looking forward to is has to be San Diego State. They play Charleston tonight. I want to start taking down. Now, I know the brackets are already put in, and I'm not trying to like put any bracket in, but I know, listen, on this show we got to have fun. I want to have fun. So how do we go about having the fun that we could have? We got to talk about some of these games. All right, so I'm going to go down, and you could find all the NCAA March Madness tournament information thanks to CBS Sports. So I'm going to scroll down each list and kind of just quickly, if I can, give you who I think is going to win. Now, what's going to take some time is that I'm actually going to write this stuff down, because if not, I'm going to forget, and I'm not going to rewatch this show moving backwards. But kicking things off on the left side of the screen, we see Alabama taking on Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Okay, so as we sit here, like I said, these are just my predictions. And what I'll do is, because they will also they play tonight and tomorrow. Okay. They will also go on to play Saturday and Sunday for round 2. They'll play Thursday and Friday for round 3, or Wednesday. Yeah. Thursday and Friday for round 3. And then the weekend for the Elite 8. And then that championship is played on Monday this time, April the 3rd, which I think is interesting because last year they had the tournament played on a Sunday, which was opening weekend for baseball, and it was also opening weekend. It was also WrestleMania weekend. So, yeah, that's I think that's a little interesting for the Final Four and the championship game. All right. So kicking things off on the South. Alabama takes on Texas A&M Corpus Christi, excuse me. And I'm choosing Alabama to take on and to win this, or not to win, but advance. Maryland is facing West Virginia right now, and they're pretty good with the stats because they're just kicking off the second period or second half. Maryland's up over West Virginia 34-31. I'm liking West Virginia in this. I'm going to stick with West Virginia. Now, I know right off the bat that a lot of these games aren't going to go my way. Coming up at 3:10, which is another game I'm going to kind of tune into. That's going to be San Diego State and Charleston. I'm choosing San Diego State over this one here. Virginia over Fulham. I'm going to choose Virginia. They're tied. Virginia's winning, beating Fulham 32-27 at half. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, are you already cheating on your picks? You're picking now after the game started." You know what? I'm gonna completely ignore that because I didn't have a show yesterday, or else I would have done it yesterday. In the South, we have Creighton versus NC State. I'm choosing NC State to win, in my opinion. Baylor takes on UC Santa Barbara. And I'm going to take Baylor as a victorious one over this one. I have Missouri taking on Utah State. I'm going to go with Utah State in this one, kind of getting the offset. Got Arizona and Princeton as the final game in the South, and I'm choosing Arizona to win. We're going to jump all over to the Midwest here as Houston and Northern Kentucky. As much as I would like Northern Kentucky to advance along, I'm thinking Houston is going to ride it out on top. I think Houston is one of my favorites. I think Houston over Alabama would also be a good touch in the finals. Iowa over Auburn. I'm choosing Iowa. We have Miami taking on Drake. I'm going to choose Miami to advance. Indiana over Kent State. I got Kent State winning this one. They'll be playing tomorrow night. Iowa State takes on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh qualified in the first four. I'm going to choose Pittsburgh. You know, some of these teams who had to go the extra mile and earn their way in kind of keeps the streak going for a little bit. Xavier over Kennesaw State. I've got Xavier. Texas A&M over Penn State. I'm choosing Texas A&M. Texas over Colgate, the final game in the Midwest, and I'm going with Texas to win that one. Now in the East, Purdue takes on FDU. I got Purdue advancing. Memphis takes on FAU. I got Memphis. Duke takes on Oral Roberts. I'm choosing Duke over to advance. Tennessee takes on Louisiana, excuse me. I got Tennessee winning. We got Kentucky over Providence. I'm choosing Kentucky to win. My big question out of Kentucky and Xavier is how far they're going to be able to go, giving it all out, because I saw the performance we saw over the weekend in the championship tournaments kind of has questions to be asked. Kansas State over Montana in that matchup. I got USC over Michigan State. I don't think USC is going to go far, but I still have them. And I like Marquette over Vermont. Now, finally, over in the West, Kansas takes on Howard. Oh my God, I got Kansas. And this is one of the matchups where I'm kind of actually rooting for a little bit of a repeat with Kansas. Arkansas takes on Illinois. I'm going Arkansas. St. Mary's takes on VCU. I'm going St. Mary's to advance. We got UConn versus Iona and UConn. And then we'll have TCU taking on Arizona State. I like TCU. Although, TCU should kind of be worried because tomorrow night, because Arizona, they demolished their way in over Nevada. Gonzaga taking on beating Grand Canyon. I have that, Gonzaga. Northwestern takes on Boise State. I like Northwestern. UCLA takes on UNC Ash, and I got UCLA. All right, so that is my predictions for round number 1 in the NCAA tournament. Kind of take your time and go back and rewatch this and see if you guys can compare, or if you guys also agree with me on the way that I am predicting these games. I mean, there's really nothing much further into the games that I'm really predicting of. Is kind of just out of left field and mostly teams that I like. But yeah, we'll see how much I'm correct. I went 8 for 8 again in the NIT round 1. We'll see how I do in round 2. and we'll go from there. And hopefully that I could have a better outcome. And especially, the one thing that I've learned about the NCAA tournament, whether it's the NCAA March Madness tournament or it's the NIT, that honestly, this is an up for grab for anybody. And you see all these teams playing. It gets cut in half, and then it gets cut in half again. You got the Sweet 16, and then you got the Elite Eight, then you got the Final Four, and it could really be anyone's ball game. And as we've seen already, a lot of ball games we've seen already where it's been back and forth. So I want to hear from you guys, who you guys have favored. I'm kind of favoring Alabama, Houston, Purdue, and Kansas, all kind of hosting that one seed. Maybe UCLA can surprise us, or Tennessee in this matter out of the East. Other than that, I think the top teams will advance to the Final Four. So let me know what you guys think. Let's take a break and let's come on back here and continue the program. Bottom of the hour coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Welcome on back here. 1:44 on the program. 2 hours taking you guys up until 3. I understand it's not a normal time. Bear with me. Okay, we're doing episodes today. Like I said, such a fine day outside. I know it's going to get colder. I know NCAA basketball games are going on right now, but I turned on the TV about 10 minutes before going live, and I didn't find a basketball game. And I know it's on TV. I just didn't dig too deep. But I found NCAA championship tournaments for wrestling. I thought that was, I think wrestling is one of those unrecognized sports. Just like I think, when you think about sports, college sports, and you think about high school sports, you got football, you got baseball, you got basketball. In high school, you hear about lacrosse, you hear about soccer. So same thing in college, but you don't hear much about like wrestling. And wrestling, I'll tune into wrestling and I'll watch wrestling. It's a fun event, and I'm all for it. Right now there's 2 matches going up. I mean, it's the first round of the tournament. It's gonna probably be all weekend long, and get to see some collegiate, authentic wrestling for college. These are the same wrestling, the type of wrestling that majority of professional wrestlers go through before they understand before getting into the ring. Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, just among a few guys to mention that really got you. It got me intrigued into wrestling. I remember growing up as a kid, and I would listen to, I would, get into high school, and I was like, why don't you go try out for the wrestling team? I'm an offensive lineman, and I've been told that, offensive lineman learning how to move on the wrestling mat can help you in your skills level for football. And when I first thought of joining the high school wrestling team, but to be honest, I was a little disappointed because I expected, because that's the only thing I didn't know what wrestling was about until I went into high school wrestling, because the wrestling that I grew up knowing was the wrestling that you saw in WWE and in, TNA. And I thought legitimately, because there were places where I've seen, minors, high schoolers go in and train at a young age. And I thought, just so hypothetically, that if I was going to join wrestling, this was going to kind of lead me down the path, because, growing up, you had that dream and vision. I'm going to go become a professional wrestler or a professional ball player. And, next, I'm talking to you guys behind a microphone. And so when I went into first, I had an old friend of mine that was going to do wrestling. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do it with them. I thought it was collegiate. I thought it was professional wrestling. I didn't know it was collegiate, um, and or amateur wrestling. And I was like, you know what? I had second thoughts. I'm glad I did it because, these sports, you do take away a lot more than that sport itself. I mean, the only thing, and I'm going to always say this, the only thing that I wish that I've done was take sports more seriously, whether that was baseball, whether that was football, or whether that was wrestling. And, I got drained towards the end of the high school career and just wasn't going to pursue it anymore. But yeah, I kind of got wrestling on in the background, and the only thing I could do now is watch. I'm in no physical condition, nor probably will ever be, to do anything like that on the mat again or on the field. But that was my good old days. Good old days. Cincinnati Reds had a game canceled yesterday. They were supposed to take on the Chicago Cubs. Got canceled because of rain delays back on Tuesday. They picked up a nice victory, 5-3 over the Kansas City Royals. They're off today, so they have a couple of days off, not to worry about games. And the next game will be tomorrow night against the Cleveland Guardians, where Graham Ashcraft will be doing the pitching as we try to finalize some more dynamic, as we try to solidify the roster a little bit more here. It's kind of it's kind of the time of the season where I'm just, where I think as a fan, if you're watching and following spring training, you get a little disappointed because everyone is out there making the case and their claim for to be on the main roster or even be a part of the 40-man roster. And earlier this week, we got a chance to see a handful of guys not be cut, but that got cut from camp, went down to minor leagues. Daniel Duarte, Tyrone Guerrero, Kevin Herget, Richie Martin was assigned to minor league camps, including guys like our favorite Christian Encarnacion-Strand, Matt McLain, Ellie Dela Cruz was optioned out to AAA Louisville. And so this roster becomes smaller. And what do we see? We see, as this roster becomes smaller, we see your 40-man roster, what it's going to look like. That means we see more of the activities as we see Tyler Stevenson take more of a role at first base. Spencer Steer is still kind of figuring out his third base position. But, then we go see these guys like Encarnacion and, Ellie Dela Cruz, who are making impacts at spring training, and we're seeing them cut down. And I think a little bit makes you question, right? Well, what is the game plan moving forward? And I'm going to go on and say is that, you know what? And I was looking at the numbers, and I'm planning on sharing with you in a more of a depth conversation about these prospects and their numbers during spring training. But I really, there is a process that the Reds are pushing forwards to, and as much as we want to see tomorrow stars today, because I think that's that's the key of getting fans out to the ballpark, right? We have to still allow them to develop and to build and to grow. McLain is 23, as long with Encarnacion. Ellie Dela Cruz is 21 years old, and I'm not saying that they're not professional major league ready, but rushing them to the major leagues for opening day is just not ideal for what the Reds are trying to do. You got to remember, you guys, what we're looking at for the Reds. I mean, let's give it. The Reds can, it's what the Reds' success is based off of what the Reds produce out there starting opening day, right? I mean, as many people are saying the Reds are going to finish dead last in the National League. They're going to have probably one of the worst records in Major League Baseball this year. the only people that can determine how the Reds hold off is the Cincinnati Reds. And I think that's it. And they could take us by surprise and go on and win the NL Central. Now, even Reds fans are not agreeing to that. I think a lot of people will laugh at me and say, hey, Justin, this is a little far-fetched. And you know what? Completely. You have a valid point. This is a far-fetched because I don't know if the team knows the right direction that they're going in other than for the future, right? The Reds are making that push for a 2024 to 2026 run, which is still years away. Well, like I said, the success that the Reds can produce is based off of what they're giving out in, what type of performance and productivity that they're giving out there. Yes, we want to see these younger guys. And I've heard this through many sources. I've said this on the show before this week, I think last week, and since spring training. I don't want to see them rushed. Yes, I think throughout the year, I'm going to want to see, based off of the performance that the Reds have, based off of injuries, I do want to see a guy like Ellie De La Cruz come up, and with him being on the 40-man roster, I think it's great. I want to see Christian Encarnacion-Strand come up, and they were talking about Encarnacion, and I'll give you this. They're talking about David Bell was talking about Encarnacion the other day. All right. He was saying all the good things. This was an article by Mark Sheldon yesterday when he talked to David Bell. And David Bell said, first of all, he did everything right. He had a great spring, Reds manager David Bell said. Okay. He didn't show us anything we didn't know, but every now and then, I think you can show yourself what you're capable of, and having a spring like in Major League camp can go a long way. And, Encarnacion made that fight, right? He's hit for 577. His on-base percentage is 556. He's 15 hits and 26 plate appearances. I think he's ultimately, hey, let's pay attention. Let's keep him in our back pocket. But he didn't, he didn't really, David Bell said he didn't show us anything we didn't already know. We know he's a prospect. We know what he's capable of doing. And he just went out there and did it. It was a very successful camp from Christian, but really the determination is today isn't really the right time for him to be in the big leagues. And I get that. At this point, there's still little things he knows he needs to work on. Okay. So as much as a good player he is on the field, what does he need to work on? David Bell said in a article that Mark Sheldon wrote, okay, he needs to be patient, but not too patient. Just work as hard as he can to get back here. I see no reason why it couldn't happen very quickly for him. Now, we're talking about Cincinnati Reds fans, you guys. How soon do you guys want to see Christian Encarnacion-Strand? If he's performing and putting up the numbers that he's doing, how soon do you want to see him make his way up to the Major League base roster? He's a guy, and I'll tell you about this in more in depth coming back in break. And this is the same thing with Matt McLain. And let's be honest, this is the same thing with Ellie De La Cruz. These are guys that are probably expected to be in the for the Reds organization in the next 2 years, playing for an NL Central Division championship. Right? So let's have that conversation when we come back. Hour number 1 is complete. We'll come back to hour number 2. We'll continue the conversation. We got a couple other topics that we need to talk about. And at the end of the episode, I still want to talk about AEW. But I believe that AEW is taking a new direction for the way that they're carrying the AEW World Championship. The throw-in continues. Hour number 2 coming up next. Alrighty, everyone, we're back here on a Thursday. Hour number 2 here on the throw-in, and I want to give a big shout out to Spreaker, our second home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All of our podcasts gets uploaded to Spreaker from iHeartRadio. If you guys are looking to create podcasts and want to get your episodes out there and want a vast majority of distribution areas, I recommend checking out Spreaker. Steve Barber from Armchair Booking Podcast, which, by the way, he's back at it again. All right. After a couple weeks dealing with life, and I understand that, talking to him, finally put it up an episode earlier this week, both in his Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast and his Cubicle Chat. And he introduced me to Spreaker, and ever since then I've been Spreaker advocate personnel. Upload every episode, usually right after. Today on this hand, it may take a little longer tonight because I'm going right out. Got to go to softball practice. Gonna take my oldest out to a little bit of grub afterwards and enjoying their time. We're talking about at the end of hour number 1, I wanted to continue into this conversation about the expectations of these minor league guys that have stood out during spring training. And, when is the expectation of them coming up to the major leagues? And I tell you, this is a team that is, been time and time again told and said that this is a team that is expected greatness 2-3 years down the road. And these guys like Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, Ellie Dela Cruz, Christian Encarnacion, Mac McLain, all guys, they're expected to be up at this time. And there's a couple of different controversies, and there's a couple of different reasons why these guys have been sent down right now. And I just want to also just take this time and take this moment to share with you the bracket and how these men did. We'll start off with Christian Encarnacion-Strand. I mean, boy, let me tell you, you talk about having fun at baseball. This spring training in 12 games, all right, Christian Encarnacion-Strand had a phenomenal spring training. Compared to the other numbers against these other prospects, he had one of the best spring trainings in all of Cincinnati Reds, almost in all of baseball this year. 27 plate appearances, 26 at-bats, 7 runs scored from him, 15 hits, 2 doubles, 1 triple, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, and 2 strikeouts. His batting average was .577. He left off with .555 on base percentage and a slugging percentage of 1.192. Not comparable. And this is what you have to offer, but down in the minor leagues. And I think that's a great opportunity to build. And the reason why he's not up, which is going to be the same reasons, and when we take a look at Matt McLain, and right now, when we take a look at Ellie Dela Cruz here in a moment, the reason why he's not up is right now because he's playing the combination of third base and first base. Now, right now, I believe that Ellie Dela Cruz, or not Ellie Dela Cruz, but Christian Encarnacion is expected to almost be an everyday third baseman. And we mentioned this before break at the end of the hour, what David Bell had to say about Christian Encarnacion. He just needs a little bit more experience in playing either first base or third base. And right now, you got Spencer Steer that is strongly fighting for a third to meet the third base position at opening day. And then you also have Tyler Stevenson, who's currently working at first base. And with the combination of Will Myers, Joey Votto, and Tyler Stevenson, I mean, unless someone gets hurt, where in my opinion, if Joey Votto gets hurt, okay, you still got two solid guys. I'm not going to risk bringing Christian up to the major leagues. At least I don't find the purpose to. If Will Myers or Tyler Stevenson gets hurt, that's when I would consider, all right, maybe giving Christian a chance. But see, as good as Christian is able to, and by the way, Christian was one of those guys who came over with third baseman Spencer Steer back on August 2nd last year during the trade with the Twins where they sent Tyler Mahle off to Minnesota. We talked about not rushing. This guy has a little bit of work that he could still work on. He has the action, he has what it takes to be a big league guy. I just think let's continue molding him. And while we have time to figure out what's going on at third base with Spencer Steer, and really, realistically, I think it's a little bit of a mess that we have at first base with three guys not knowing who's going to be an everyday starter. Yes, I think by the end of the season, we should start figuring out, all right, what is the game plan moving forward? Are we going to keep Tyler Stevenson there? Which, in my opinion, I think if it was me, if I was writing the rules for the Cincinnati Reds and I was mapping out this future, all right, my key focus is keeping Tyler Stevenson healthy in that lineup, which means I would have him at first base because as much as possible, he's a young guy. And as young as Tyler Stevenson still has to offer both offensively and defensively, utilizing him at first base, I think, is necessary, which means it would occupy the time that Christian has at first, which puts him back at third base. And I don't know the longevity with Spencer Steer, but maybe they could work something out and compete for a position. I'm sorry. And right now, I would put Christian Encarnacion out there instead of Spencer, but that's just me. I think Spencer has a little bit more of a longevity. Let's take a look at Matt McLain for a moment. 12 games, 24 plate appearances, 16 at-bats because 8 of those at-bats, plate appearances, ended up in a walk. Struck out 3 times. He scored in 10 runs with only having 1 home run. 23-year-old comes in with the .375 batting average, .583 on-base percentage. Not too bad. There's a lot of guys, though, competing between a utility guy, and Matt McLain kind of plays that role. I don't see him an everyday center fielder. I don't see him an everyday I don't see Jonathan India is at second baseman. So then shortstop is open. And when shortstop's open, you got Jose Barrero, you got Kevin Newman. I think you kind of go the protective route. And I think McLain's another incident because although there are different options for center field, we know that Nick Senzel most likely won't be opening day material. Right? He hasn't been back for spring training, which means you see a lot of these guys that like Michael Ciani, TJ Friedel, Stuart Fairchild, going to get opportunities, going to get reps. And I think because McLain has been utilized down below in the infield more often, I think the lack of reps is kind of hurting him. 375 is not a terrible batting average. I like it for, the short period of time. I'm afraid, though, when you throw a guy like McLain out there on an everyday roster, then I think you start seeing like a 280, maybe a 290 at best. Yes, he could draw in the walks, but I need him to hit more. On the other note, we have the Elly De La Cruz, which out of all these top prospect guys, out of all the guys who were impressive, there was a couple of times with Elly De La Cruz so far has kind of, he's on the 40-man roster. He got sent down to AAA with in Louisville. He only had 12 games, and he had 25 at-bats. Batted 200, striking out 9 times. And I don't really care so much for the strikeouts. 5 RBIs. He had 2 triples, a home run. For a infielder and for a more so maybe shortstop / second baseman, I'm not really expecting him to do much, but I expect him more on the base, more base running aggressiveness than seeing him, hit power bombs. But in my opinion, overall, what do these 3 guys have in common? One, I think that they need a little bit more work down in the minor league system. And this is where that system is going to help these guys grow and to shape up. And the process is to see these guys over the next year, next baseball season, potentially start filling in these empty slots. So as you see injuries throughout the year occur, slide these men in, get them some exposure. The only way you're going to know is if they get the 200, 300 at-bats at the major league level. You're also providing yourself room to send them back down middle of the year so that they can continue working on things. This is a part of the plan. I think as much as we would like to see the Reds, bring Encarnacion-Strand up to the major leagues, which I'm in favor for. And you think about it, this is one of the reasons why you get why you get people to come in, because you want to see the future stars that are going to hopefully potentially be the next winning team. But I'll tell you this, we're not even close to seeing that type of team that's supposed to be put together in the next 2 to 3 years right now in the major leagues. And so there's really I don't want to go waste an opportunity, and I don't want to go sit there and bring them up and then they use all their service time. They're stuck at the major league level. Something happens when they need exclusive training, and we don't even have the guys ready, and they're going to have to make a premature run. I say, listen, I think the idea of bringing them up throughout the year, especially seeing them by September, I would be upset if Encarnacion had a great season and he was not brought up by September, right, when they had the extension. Same thing for these other few guys. So I don't know. I wouldn't put out to it. I know it's kind of scary, but I wouldn't really go dig too deep into it. Other than this is kind of the way they're going to set their ball club at the opening day, expecting that there are going to be changes throughout the year due to injuries, due to performances, and due to young talent growing. Also, maybe trades, right? Don't expect this team to be the same. Expect a younger personnel to come in, and the Reds are still going to hunt for those younger guys. And it hurts because I like Will Myers, but there's probably a very good chance that he gets traded by the trade deadline. I like Austin Romine. I like Kurt Casale, but there's a very good chance that one of those two will get traded because Luke Mali is also another catcher. Who's out there right now that could potentially be traded? I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it. Now, maybe Nick Senzel. Okay, so maybe those are your 3 guys that I can see get traded here sometime this season. We will be looking into our projections for opening day roster, our finalizing everything that would happen next week. Also maybe projecting our starting lineup for opening day, because that's going to be interesting. On that note, for the Cincinnati Reds, the 12th annual Skyline Chili Reds Futures High School Showcase presented by Cincinnati's Children's Sports Medicine and Orthopedic will feature 92 high school baseball and softball teams from 78 Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and Dayton schools played from March 31st to May 13th. The announcement was made back on Tuesday, at the PNG MLB Cincinnati Youth Academy during their annual luncheon. So, they're bringing that back, which is exciting. And I think that's it. Because if I get into any more, I think we'll go over the break. Let's cut to a break. Let's take a timeout. Come on back. I got a little bit more for. I got high school games happen yesterday. I got Cincinnati Bengals news, and I got the chances of Reds not being shown on TV. We'll talk about that next. So you guys are listening to the Throw-In Hour number 2 here, right on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. I got it in 10, 20, 50. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to the program. And let me get you a couple of the news that's been going around and give you some updates and information before we kind of get to a kind of tough subject, I think, to embrace and to I think in this sense becomes an issue. I don't think it's going to become an issue, but I think it's worth enough to make this episode of the program. So we're going to start things off over with the NFL. The NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals on that matter, as the new year begins, former Kansas City Chiefs offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. signs a 4-year, $64 million contract with the Bengals. And I think that's a crucial help to their offensive line. Now, coming into the offseason, I've said before that the Bengals are going to need help with the offensive line again, which I thought they made significant improvement last year. But, overall, I think that I think that with the injuries, it really put everything into a delayed start. Now, I think this is a key component to how this offseason is going to continue out, because we just saw both of the Bengals receiver safeties go out and sign contracts with different ball clubs. And as much as I would say to wish them best of luck, and I wish them that they have best of luck, it creates more problems for the Bengals that I think they may need to shift their direction to the NFL draft to help solve. Now, in my opinion, I personally think, hey, maybe go sign a veteran guy, in the safety position in the backfield to really help out. But maybe, my initial thought was, why not go sign another offensive lineman? Because you can never go wrong with the help. Well, they just signed a veteran, and Orlando Brown and what he's capable of. He wanted to stay in Kansas City for his lifetime, but things just didn't work out. Well, because, Kansas City's gone on to win Super Bowls. To bring Super Bowl caliber players that can not only know they can protect Joe Burrow, but they can enlighten the team with, hey, this is what a winning team does, and this is how you get over that threshold. Because it's one thing to get your team to the Super Bowl. It's one thing to get your team to the playoffs, or in other words, get them to the AFC, NFC conference championship game. But it's a complete other thing to be able to get over that hump and actually win the gold. And, the Bengals have been there. They want to get back again. And I think this will help the offensive line tremendously, providing that extra protection. This also helps the Cincinnati Bengals tremendously, because they're the ones now getting to go into this NFL draft, where if they don't like the options they have different positions they could go out for. I think this year, in my opinion, in this draft, I still highly think you should be looking for an offensive line. If you could find a way to get them into the second or third round, then go for it. But then I'm actually okay with the Bengals understanding that they lost both of their safeties just a week ago. I'm okay with them maybe changing course and trying to see if they can find a safety early on. And then in this case, still the mixture of maybe a defensive tackle as well as wide receivers. So that's my opinion, but I want to say this is a bad deal. I think this is a good deal, and you got to think about it. They gotta really prioritize where how they spend their money and how they utilize their money. They weren't willing to re-sign notorious contracts for Jesse Bates and so you know I understand they deserve a payday, right? I mean, I believe they deserve a payday. They definitely protected the back. Now we're just gonna have to use the guys that we have. They should be stepping up. Hopefully we could bring someone in, and hopefully we can get someone from the draft. Alrighty. Talking about some other sports, Cincinnati baseball had a 2-game series this past Tuesday and Wednesday against Winthrop Eagles. They split the series one apiece. Game 1, the Bearcats beat Winthrop Eagles 3-1. Alex Shee picked up the victory, going 3 2/3, giving up a hit, a run, and 4 strikeouts. Chase Hopwell started the game, going 3 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. Mitch Wright picked up the save, his second save on the season, as he was asked to do 2 innings, giving up 2 hits and 2 strikeouts. Shortstop Max Palomir went 3 for 4, scoring in a run in Tuesday's win. Bearcats fall short on the road Wednesday, 13-3. Zach Siegel picked up a loss, 2 for 1 on the record this season. 1 inning, 3 runs, 3 walks was his status. Landon Vicherick and Alec Jones both hit home runs in Wednesday's ball game. They'll have a chance to continue their road stands tonight at 5 p.m., taking on UC Upstate. And this weekend, due to potential weather inclements, they're moving those Saturday and Sunday games up early and having games on Friday and Saturday. They'll be taking on Princeton at neutral sites. Friday's game will be at 11 a.m. and Saturday's game will be at high noon instead of the Saturday and Sunday weekend. Xavier Musketeers lost their first home game of the season, fell short 7-3. Luke Hoskins picked up a loss in yesterday's game. He falls down to 1-1, going 3 innings, giving up 6 hits, 6 runs, and 3 strikeouts. Matthew Dupree, 3 for 5, a run, an RBI, and a home run. Jack Hausinger also went 1 for 5, giving up hitting a 2-run home run in yesterday's ball game. Musketeers will head back on the road for a 3-game series this weekend, taking on Woodford Terreri, and that name's very familiar because I believe it was Cincinnati who just got done facing them. A doubleheader on Saturday, first game starting at 3 p.m., and then the series wrap up on Sunday, game starting at 1. So that is your local Cincinnati sports. We'll get you more coverage, getting you guys ready for the weekend coming up ahead of you guys. All right. So this is going to be more of a concern. All right. Officially confirmed that Bally Sports has filed for their Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And this is nothing new. We've talked about it a little bit during the off season and back a couple of months ago. And there is a jeopardy when it comes down to, okay, are you able to see the Reds on TV? Diamond Sports Group filed the bankruptcy, which was talked about. And now Major League Baseball has claimed that listen, we're not going to let nothing happen to Bally Sports. All right. And I think it's a statement, right? And so here was an article that came out by WCPO Cincinnati. It states the headliner, Cincinnati Reds broadcaster files for bankruptcy, MLB prepared to produce, distribute games if needed. When we told by Rob Manfred that regardless of what happens to Bally Sports and the Diamond Group Club or Sports Club, they will do whatever they can to keep all these games initiated. Now, here's the article that was written back yesterday, early in the morning. So the broadcaster of the Cincinnati Reds, Bally Sports, has filed bankruptcy. Bally Sports' parents company, Diamond Sports Group, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which will trigger an immediate separation from Sinclair Broadcast Group, an agreement that began back in 2021. Bally Sports Network owns the rights to 42 teams across the NBA and Major League Baseball and NHL in markets across the United States, including the Reds. The company revealed details on the filing Tuesday in the U.S. bankruptcy court for the Southern District of Texas. As the report says in the article, CEO of Diamond said that the company has determined that the best path forward, and everything loads and changes my spot, that the best path forward for the company and its stakeholders is to restructure through a Chapter 11 process. We are utilizing this process to reset our capital structure and strengthen our balance sheet through the elimination of approximately $8 billion of debt. The financial flexibility attained through this restructuring will allow DSG to involve our business, Diamond Sports Group, to evolve our business while continuing providing exceptional live sports production for our fans. The announcement just comes as the MLB is preparing the 2023 season, while the NHL and NBA are bringing their regular season to an end. As of now, Bally Sports will still set to be a broadcaster for the Reds as opening day looms closer. If Bally Sports would dissolve completely in the bankruptcy process, it's uncertain where exactly the Reds games will be broadcast. The Major League Baseball, the MLB issued a statement Thursday following the bankruptcy declaration, calling it an unfortunate development that we have been expecting. But that Bally should be continuing to televise all the games they committed during the process. Major League Baseball, this was actually an article by MLB. They went out and they said Major League Baseball is ready to produce and distribute games to fans in their local market in the event of a Diamond or any other regional sport network is unable to do so as required by their agreement with their clubs. Having streamed live games on MLB TV for more than 20 years, to produce live games for MLB Network since 2009, we have the experience and capabilities to deliver games for fans uninterrupted. Other than MLB preparedness in the face of the bankruptcy, the league has bolstered the local media capabilities, and they said they be re-imaging MLB's distribution model to address the changing media climate and ultimately reach an even larger number of fans. All right. So listen, I know that was kind of long, and I apologize. But the way that this is going down is that we knew that Diamond Group Club was going to file bankruptcy. And Bally Sports, which, broadcasts a lot of Major League Baseball games, NHL, NBA, okay, across the world, okay, across the United States, they are going to be in jeopardize, because if Bally Sports gets dissolved among this bankruptcy because Diamond Sports is running that, then what happens to these games? There won't be no more Bally Sports to lose the channeling. Well, baseball's kind of already restructured an image this spring, which is now in part of the MLB TV. Now, I'm not one to be a fan of having to go about purchasing games. I didn't do it during NFL this year, and I'm not expected to do it. I didn't do it last year when Apple TV took over Game of the Week on Friday nights, and I didn't get to see certain games. But the MLB is prepared to, take over the source. Now, I think, I honestly truly believe that MLB should take it over. And if you're in the local area, you should have a channel that plays the game wherever you're at. Okay, it's not Bally Sports. And moving forward. So that's just me. I don't want to have to go pay to watch the Cincinnati Reds, especially if they're not winning. And I think the importance of this is that I understand that the MLB is ready to start encountering this. I think what they need to do is just go ahead and start doing this. Because what's going to end up happening, especially when you start forcing fans to pay to watch their own ball club, is that people are not going to buy it. Especially, they're going to start demanding teams to win. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Miami, Detroit, you name it. Colorado. If you gotta pay to watch your team play, then they need to win. I'm not gonna go pay $150 to watch 162 games for the Reds this season. And by the way, with all the games and work schedule mixing up, I can't catch all live 162. So what does that happen? What does that mean for me? That means that why am I going to pay for the subscription and not be able to watch all the games, for one? Two is that if this team is only going to go put up 50 plus wins in a season, I'm not spending $150 to watch them lose 110 games. So I really don't know. MLB is reassuring the fans, the audience, the fan base that, listen, we are going to protect the viewership and the fan base because we understand that majority of the fans are watching at home. You also think about bars and sports clubs. They also are they don't just, maybe they'll go spend the $150 package to go get every team, and maybe that's more beneficial. And I hope that they will see an uprise this year. But for the people at home, I think of young kids, and baseball is already a difficult sport to get into because there's, it's been exposed. There's a lot of gripe work that you have to kind of get yourself into, that in order to get up to the show. But little kids, being able to watch the game at home on their couch, I think does wonders. I definitely think that it's a different atmosphere than watching it, than listening to it. Because I grew up listening to it. And nothing against Jeff Brantley or, nothing against, Tommy Thrall. They do an incredible job. But they're not no Vince Scully. They're not no Ted Leitner. And when I was growing up listening to Jerry Coleman and Ted Leitner and Tony Gwynn, they literally painted you a picture, and you're able to sit back and almost watch the game staring into your backyard, and you understand exactly. It's like if you're right there at the game. Now, like I said, no disrespect to the Reds broadcast team, but that's just kind of how, it's been all this time. So, MLB says that they will take care of it and that they will ensure that we are given the utmost, the best of the best. But we will see. And I think just time will consume. But it is a scary factor. And, I think what a lot of people need to prepare for is that WLW isn't going nowhere. 1360 isn't going nowhere. And you're more than capable of watching these games listening to these games on the radio. So whatever the case may be, that's why I think maybe people should also start getting prepared for, at least if there is some sort of controversy between, from at time to time. So that's kind of where we stand at that. Anything else following more of the bankruptcy, we will let you know. Coming up next, bottom of the hour, bottom of the program. Want to talk some AEW Dynamite last night. A couple of things. Trio Championship. Has the titles been put into the right hands to give the image? And for two, AEW World Championship is kind of transitioning to a new look. Not the title, but the way that the competitors are being approached. We'll explain more coming up next. All righty, welcome back here on the program. 2:43, bottom half of the hour. I want to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Just kind of checking up some games and scores here on the bracket side of things. It looks like, and based off of what I'm seeing now, Maryland has pulled away with 4 seconds remaining to a 67-65 lead. This has been my first time kind of really sitting down and going over the bracket, giving my predictions, and following up on it. I didn't go submit any bracket predictions to the bracket that closed earlier today. Actually closed at noon. So trying to just figure out the last part of the games here. Virginia looking to hold on a victory against Furman. They're currently leading 66-63 with 27 seconds. Utah and Missouri is at halftime, 35-31. Missouri is leading. And Kansas, who I think is one of my top 5 teams to make it to maybe even one of the teams to go all the way again. They're beating Howard 42-34 with 2 minutes left to go. And yes, Maryland did win and beat West Virginia. So far, 1-1. If Virginia could hold on to Furman here with 30 seconds left, I'll be 2-2. I'm watching Charleston and San Diego State coming up at 3:10. Arizona and Princeton, I think, is going to be a good one. There's some good games. Boise State and Northwestern. Northern Kentucky, we got to talk and give our supports out to that. Northern Kentucky and Houston at 9:20 tonight. And then UCLA, who had kind of really fought their way in. We'll get a crack at it tonight. What else is going on tonight? Pretty much it. No Reds baseball. Come back and talk to you later on about tomorrow. Get you guys ready for the weekend. All right, well, we'll keep in touch with how this game ends here between Furman and Virginia. Get to go to softball practice today. Excited because I got college wrestling championship tournament weekend coming up. Right, that's currently in the way. So a lot of pins. A lot of teams. A lot of guys are getting pinned today. So 19 seconds left. All right. We'll talk a little bit about NXT tomorrow. Want to change directions and talk a little bit about the AEW Trios Championship. Now, as we noticed, the AEW Trios Championship, the House of Black won it at AEW Revolution. They beat the Elite. And I don't know. how do you guys feel of this title reign? I mean, I know that the title does significant wonders for the House of Black, who have been struggling to uh exfoliate their dominance, over since they first formed. They kind of been thrown in here and there all over the place. Some of it's done with injuries and whatnot, and contract restrictions. But, you know, I also think that this is an opportunity for those titles who, how often or where else do you normally see a trios division with gold? You don't. WWE doesn't have it. And I kind of felt like last year. I mean, I don't really feel like it gives enough attention. I don't feel like a lot of people battle for it. And we're kind of saw like last night on Dynamite. We saw the combination of the Jericho Appreciation Society, the House of Black, the Black Combat Club, and so forth, kind of all starting to destroy each other for this. And I thought this was a really well perceived take, because now, you're seeing this title, and this was the main event of AEW Dynamite. And I feel like this is where you start seeing this title get its appreciation and be on top of the list for now. I don't know too much about the history of the AEW Trios Championship, but what I do know is that I don't feel like it's gotten enough attention. And if you're going to have a title go out there, you need to give it enough attention. And oh my goodness. Wow. Furman just beat Virginia 68-67 in the final seconds. This is crazy. I guess I'm already 1 for 2 here, not doing so great. In the NCAA. Hey, this is where anything could happen, and I did not expect Virginia to have an upset so early on. Wow. Wow. But no, I really truly believe that the AEW Trios Champion is starting to get recognized because of teams like the House of Black. Not saying that the Elite wasn't any good at being able to carry those titles, but I felt like for the longest time that the AEW has had titles on guys that they know, that they trust, kind of paying their due diligence to the founders, and then given these people who have came from other promotions over to AEW. They say, hey, I'm going to promise you X, Y, and Z, and you're going to just bypass the line. We know what the House of Black is capable of. We know that they could do it each and every week. I know this maybe sets the future, and I don't know what the future is with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, but what I saw with John Moxley lately, Claudio, Chris, the Jericho Appreciation Society. Earlier this week, I mentioned, I don't even know, maybe it wasn't this week, it was last week, where I mentioned that maybe it's time for the Jericho Appreciation Society to fall short. And because they haven't really been successful, right? Maybe getting them into these title opportunities and maybe actually capturing some sort of gold can do something for that fraction. Another source that a reason I'm talking about this is also maybe very related to the AEW World Championship. Now, MJF had his rebar mitzvah, all right, last night. And I don't know nothing about a rebar mitzvah. I don't know how they run, how they operate. I don't want, so I can't tell you if AEW did it respectfully or if they disrespected it. I couldn't tell you nothing because I don't know nothing about it. I know it is a prestigious thing that happens and it is taken very seriously. But I don't know if it's frowned upon taking it into the wrestling world. What I do know is that we probably saw a new image last night in the direction that the AEW is going down when it comes down to AEW World Championship. And what I'm talking about is that during this bar mitzvah, you saw Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy, come out kind of all saying, "Hey, I got beef with you, MJF. History, I want a match." Ultimately, throwing MJF into the cake, and that's how we opened up the program. And I was listening to other people talk about this, and they're like, and I have to agree with them. You don't normally see a opening segment as a promotion, like as a promo cut, as in AEW, and they like to separate themselves away from WWE, that is notorious for doing it, and that's fine. And I think it was cool though, because they're all about the wrestling, but I also wanted to see something different, and I think it worked, because the way that the main event finished off, I think it was better to see not to have this rebar mitzvah as the main event. I think it would have been lackluster if we saw that at a main event. But the whole purpose of coming out here and saying this is that all four men that was in the ring last night, including MJF, and including maybe future opportunities for challengers for MJF. And a couple back at AEW Revolution, I thought to myself, I was like, there's just no one else in line. He's taking care of Moxley. Moxley and Hangman Page is the same route. You could maybe throw Kenny Omega, but I think he's already had his time gone and passed. Bryan Danielson could be maybe Claudio, but I mean, he's more of a Ring of Honor guy. Chris Jericho wouldn't make any sense. Wardlow, I'm waiting for that to happen. So that's the only guy on my bucket list that I would like to see. But then they kind of re-imaged these new group of guys in Sammy and Darby and Jack. And I'm like, okay. Now I see where you're going. This is also, for me, a new direction that they're kind of taking, because we've been reluctant on seeing Jon Moxley. We've been reluctant on seeing Hangman Page or Bryan Danielson. Basically, we've been reluctant on seeing either founders of AEW, or we've been reluctant to seeing outside athletes from the outside to come in and hold this title. Last year, I think, was a big downfall for the AEW World Championship, because it was CM Punk. Jon Moxley held it for a time being because we didn't know how long CM Punk was going to be out. And then we finally decided that we're going to move off, from him and go to MJF. So there was a good chunk of period last year where I think AEW played it safe. They put on Moxley because they didn't know the future of Punk and how long he was going to be out because of an injury. And I see these three group of guys who have probably legitimate reasons to try to challenge and get into the title picture. And, it's something new, something refreshing. And I think this is also what's going to make AEW a little exciting. You're also still having to build them. Now, I heard this and I think I have to agree with it. Jack Perry is kind of like an odd man out. Sammy Guevara has not really, founded his way up that ladder. So the only realistic person right now at this moment that I think has a legitimate number one contingency case is Darby Allin. He just dropped the title a couple months ago to Samoa Joe, the TNT championship. He's coming back from I guess he had some prior commitments at the time, and that's why he dropped the title. So he gets to come back and probably be a good challenge to MJF. And the way I see it, these are new challenges that MJF is going to have. And these are challenges that, how do you want to put this? These are challenges that these three men get to grow, and we're seeing a new set of guys, some new faces jump into that title picture. And probably some of these guys you never even figure out or even consider, hey, does he fit this AEW image? I can see Darby Allin fitting in perfectly clear. I can see a couple months. And if it's a couple months to extend MJF's title reign, then I'm all for it. I was listening to a couple other podcasts about this, and this is my last thought maybe on this, is that, Sting has made it clear that he wants to retire. Maybe this could be the direction that he goes down, going into Double or Nothing or something like that. So I really don't know, but I think it's exciting. I want to go ahead and give another big shout out to the great Muta, who was announced yesterday that he was going to be in this year's WWE Hall of Fame. He's an F1 Tag Team Champion, Triple Crown Heavyweight Champion 3 times, a World Tag Team Championship 5 times. He was the Akio Yoshizawa Cup 2010 winner, Championship Carnival 2002, 2004, 2007. What else? Sorry. January 2nd, Hall Heavyweight Battle Royal winner, 2011. He was also the Junior Heavyweight Battle Royal winner of 2011, World's Strongest Tag Determination League, 2001, 2007, 2009. NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship. I mean, his list goes on and on and on. He's ranked he was PWI's ranked number 3 and 25 of the top 500 best singles wrestlers. One back in 2002 and back in 2003. I mean, TNA, WWC, WWE. He's going to be inducted to the class of to the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to the great Muta. All right, that's it for our show today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'll be back again tomorrow, wrapping up a week with you guys. So until then, you guys take care. Have yourself a great rest of your day.